Welcome back to Epic Rides and part 2 of my Christmas special, brought to you by my friends at Fisher Power Sports. That's right, in case you missed part 1, Epic Rides has a title sponsor, and I couldn't be more excited to work with these awesome folks. Be sure to go check them out and buy a motorcycle or something. We're going to be sharing some great discounts with you guys in the coming weeks. However, for now, check out their website as I've added a link in the description, and tell Donovan and Darcy that I sent you. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we're back for round 2 of our look back on the first season of Epic Rides. I rode with a lot of great people, most of whom I spoke about in part 1. In this episode, I want to share some of my favorite routes from the season. As I write this script, we have our first extreme cold warning of the year, so I'm going to focus on some hot days in the saddle that will maybe make this bollocks weather feel slightly more bearable. The first route that really stood out to me was a shorter route where we checked out the Whitemouth Museum. Why did we go to the Whitemouth Museum? Because I saw a tank and got so distracted that I needed to learn more. First, I learned that the giant green vehicle with treads and a big-ass gun barrel is not in fact a tank, but a self-propelled howitzer, which could huck a 98-pound projectile a pants-wetting 18 kilometers at a speed of 2,799 feet per second. Well, at least according to the Wikipedia article I just read. Besides the howitzer disguised as a tank, the Whitemouth Museum is an amazing place to learn about industry and the people that make the area so fascinating. Bob Porth, who runs the museum, is an incredible storyteller, and if you're lucky enough to drop by and have a chat with him, we'll share a vast wealth of knowledge about Whitemouth and the surrounding towns. Also, a bunch of fun wreckers heard me refer to the Whitemouth Museum as Bob's Museum at some point, and apparently this was hugely problematic for reasons I will never fully understand. So, instead of simply moving on like a normal and well-adjusted human, I'm doubling down and formally making the recommendation to change the name of the museum from Whitemouth Municipal Museum to Bob and Pat Porth's Vault of Historical Wonderment.
We have some different
that's a grindstone. There was a flour mill in town here.
Okay.
And
wind powered?
No, it was steam powered.
Steam powered.
Steam engines on it. Yeah, big steam engine. And the mill burnt down in 1935.
Okay.
And by that time, Lake of the Woods had their big flour mill. Lake of the Woods, their Purity mill or whatever it was.
Purity,
so,
yeah.
So they were bringing in flour in bags by that time.
Okay.
They didn't need it. But in the original days, and before the turn of the last century, the farmers would come in from miles away, all over, and they'd bring their wheat, and they would camp on the yard, because you didn't want to take somebody else's flour, because in those days the wheat didn't mature in the time that it does now. It was 120, 130 days, so a lot of the wheat froze.
Gotcha.
And if you grind wheat out of grind flour out of frozen wheat, it won't rise. Period.
Oh.
Yeah. So the guys sat on their bags of wheat and guarded them religiously until their turn came. That over there, that's a stump puller, and they used to tie that up to a fairly substantial tree, and you take out the cable and tie it around a tree you wanted to pull.
Yeah. Right.
And so then across the top there was quite a large, maybe a 6x6, 8x8 pole, and you put an ox on each end, and the oxen walked around in a circle and pegged it up. It's a cable, and you pull stumps with it. You can maybe pull 1 or 2 stumps a day. But the trees in this area were huge.
Right.
And you got to remember that the area was basically covered with. Part of the Homestead Act said when you came from whatever country you came in from, you could buy a homestead, 160 acres, a quarter section for $10. So to get title on that, you had to build the house on it, you had to have a few chickens, and you had to clear so much land. You had to produce so many bushels of wheat a year within 3 or 4 years. And if you did that, then the land was yours. It was yours. Well, this area was so heavily covered with timber that it was very difficult to clear 10 acres or whatever within the 3 years. Yeah. So the Department of Lands out of Ottawa, they said, okay, what you can do is you can raise more pigs and cattle. Okay. And this area is still noted for dairy farms. We've got one of the largest dairy farms in Manitoba, just across the river there. Yeah. And 2 of them actually, but the one is much bigger. Yeah. So, but that's how they cleared land.
In late June, we decided to do an easy ride from Lac du Bonnet all the way up to Pembina Valley Provincial Park. It's a longer ride for sure, but we figured it would be fine. except of course for the soul-destroying heat. When we left Lac du Bonny at 9 a.m. or thereabouts, it was already over 30 degrees Celsius. We made it to the valley with not a lot of time to explore and delirious from the heat, but it was a great route that is well worth the saddle time. I don't know if we would have made it if it wasn't for a well-timed ice cream stop on our way to the valley to help bring our internal body temps down from surface of the sun to wearing a parka and a sauna. Did I mention that it was hot?
This is the second time I've been here and the second time I haven't been able to order food. To be fair, it's 1,000,000 degrees out.
Ice cream good.
Ice cream, yes.
Ice cream good.
Ice cream's good. Ice cream's very good.
And now we're gonna go again in the heat. No leather.
What's the temperature now?
Hot. I think my tires are melting on my bike while it sits here on concrete, let alone asphalt. Oh well. Now back to Noel and the weather.
On Canada Day long weekend, I headed from Winnipeg up to Lac du Bonny to experience a small town party like no other. From the car show to the fair, hikes around some of the local trails to what would prove to be the best fireworks show I've seen outside of a major center, it's so worth the trip and I highly recommend taking the ride out to experience this for yourself. One of the biggest adventures of the summer was a route from Winnipeg to Blue Lake's Campground in Duck Mountain Provincial Park. This trip was a longer run, especially if it's extremely hot out, which it was when Tyler and I headed across the province to check it out. The ride itself has many pretty moments and seems perfect for all you cruisers out there. In fact, when Tyler and I stopped for lunch at Lake Manitoba Narrows, we found a group of Harley riders stopped at the same spot. They weren't headed into the park, but they were certainly enjoying the sights around Lake Manitoba. Now, normally if I were speaking to my friend John Falk, who runs the Manitoba Outdoors Show and who is an unabashed Harley lover, this is where I would make some snide remark about finding out that they had all broken down in the same spot, so decided to have lunch together. In fact, I had an idea for an episode where we would go on a ride with John, but we'd have to set up a green screen behind him in his garage so that at least he could pretend his bike was running. I was willing to rent a couple of fans and everything so he'd get the full experience. But I'm a better person than that, and honestly, I loves me a nice Harley. Frankly, I can't really get too uppity about bike reliability anyways, as my metric bike has had a couple of issues through the season, including a heated grip that identified as a flamethrower one fateful ride to Lac du Bonny in the spring. I couldn't figure out why my palm was getting so warm, so pulled my hand off the grip only to see a jet of flame shoot from the center of the grip. It made for an exciting emergency stop long enough for me to disconnect the heated wires from the battery, which I'm willing to bet is an issue that John has not experienced with his Harley. Okay, I lost the thread a little there for a minute, but I'm back. As I started to say, the first large portion of the route is some pretty riding on asphalt. You're good right up to either Highway 10 at the junction to the 367, or if you decide to enter the park from the south, the 366 at Grandview. Then it gets a little exciting in spots if you've got a heavy cruiser. Both the 366 and the 367 are gravel, which in and of itself isn't bad. However, there are some really soft sandy spots that had even the mighty Stroms shaking its head as it tried to bury the front tire on me. I know it's doable, as Tyler proved it on his Vulcan, but if you really like your paint job and aren't comfortable sliding around a little on your bike, then this route might not be for you. Now, if you're willing to be a little adventurous, or if you run an ADV bike, Blue Lake's Campground or even Blue Lake Lodge is the perfect destination. The lakes are spectacular, the campground is fantastic, there's great fishing, great hiking, and ample opportunity to explore around the area. In fact, I like this spot so much I'm going to drop a big ol' announcement right here. I'm going to make this route the first guided motorcycle tour route that Epic Rides Moto Tours will be offering this coming season. That's right, Epic Rides is getting into the Moto Tour game. Why? Because I want to share my favorite places in Manitoba with you. Epic Rides Moto Tours is also the first guided motorcycle tour company in Manitoba, so how cool would it be to be part of the first guided moto tour in the province of Manitoba by the first moto tour company in Manitoba? So many firsts! Before signing up for this trip, I would say that you must have some experience handling your bike on longer rides and some experience with gravel. But you don't need any experience moto camping, as I'll show you how to make the most of your first moto camping trip. This trip is by no means a short around-the-block ride. On day 1, we'll be on the bikes for 8 to 9 hours with fuel stops and a lunch stop. Plus, we'll be on gravel for between 35 and 50 kilometers. Depending on road conditions, this can add some serious time to the trip, but it's definitely an adventure. Once we arrive at our destination, we'll get ourselves all set up and we'll talk moto camping gear and more. On day 2, we'll head out to Baldy Mountain to check out the viewing tower in the morning before heading back to the campground and then to East Blue Lake to either soak up some beach time, or if there's enough interest, we'll rent some boats and head out fishing for a few hours. Day 3, we'll get back on the bikes and head west along the 367 past Child's Lake and down to Clear Lake and Riding Mountain National Park. Once camp is set up, we'll explore some local hiking trails or hit the beach before spending our last night enjoying a campfire and having some amazing food. Day 4, we'll pack up and turn the wagons east again and head back towards Lake Manitoba, where we'll follow the west side of the lake along the 50 and then east again back to Winnipeg. We'll put well over 1,000 kilometers on the bikes over the course of the 4 days. But the big rides will really only be on days 1 and 4. I expect we'll roll into Winnipeg tired, dusty, and with huge smiles on our faces to go along with memories to last a lifetime. And as an added bonus, you brand new moto campers will now be pros ready to strike out on your own adventures, or join me on for some more advanced rides. I've only got 10 spaces open for this first tour. I'll be sending out emails with costing in January, and then we'll start accepting deposits in February. This and all of the tours I'll be operating this year will range from beginner to intermediate trips, and every one of them is designed to hopefully inspire riders to get out and explore Manitoba. These tours are also meant to be 100% inclusive for any rider, no matter the culture, identity, or orientation. The only thing I can't tolerate is intolerance, so if you're cool with getting to know different people with different stories than your own, absolutely sign up for a ride. Let's build the best, most inclusive community of riders in Canada. I'm all about bringing people together and hopefully lifting people up, and if that sounds like a good fit for you, let's go. Phew! Okay, so here we are. I've shared some of my favorite rides from last season, and I've made a major announcement. I'm so excited at the opportunity to ride with you and share my passion for moto camping and Manitoba with you. Once again, I cannot thank you enough for joining me this year, and I truly hope that you all have a restful and enjoyable holiday season. Stay tuned for new episodes starting in January, including my new podcast and some other fun stuff that will help us all get through the winter and stay excited to ride. Oh right, and I'll be introducing you to my brand new ride at some point, so that'll be fun. Season 2 of Epic Rides will launch for real in May with brand new adventures, and yes, we'll be filming the tours as well. So get ready to take the controls, as those of you joining us on the tours will get to help steer the adventure. Finally, if you've been enjoying Epic Rides, please take a minute to subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell icon thing to get notified for the next episode. Remember folks, explore often, explore local, and have a very Merry Christmas. Peace.